Today's presenting sponsor of Gambling Mad with Norman Chad is brought to you by 24K Wellness. Not all nutritional supplements are the same. 24K Wellness makes it their mission to help you feel, perform, and live at your best naturally and sustainably. 24K Wellness delivers nutritional supplements based on more than 5 decades of experience. Premium gold standard natural ingredients with advanced formulations and rigorous quality assurance testing to create products that support energy, recovery, vitality, long-term health, and cognition for focus through stress, late nights, and questionable decisions. No promises on your picks. And right now, special for Gambling Mad listeners only, go to 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K for the absolute lowest prices anywhere. Once again, that's 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K. 24K Wellness Fuel better, live better. Tell them Norm sent you.
Today, I just want to acknowledge that our dear leader, DJT, wrote a text to the Norwegian Prime Minister telling him that since Norway did not give him the Nobel Peace Prize, he no longer is all that interested in peace. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but that is pretty much the gist of it. Frankly, considering his line of reasoning, I don't know if DJT would have been the best person to select for the Nobel Peace Prize. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Welcome to Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. I am Norman Chad. Coming up on the show today, Stan Kroenke owns most of the world. The New England Patriots own the Super Bowl, and McDonald's owns one ski-through. Yes, I said ski-through. Gambling Mad, as always, brought to you by Fritos, picked fresh off of Central California trees every morning, delivered directly to your local retailer every afternoon. And by the refreshing taste of Fresca. Fritos and Fresca. It's a meal. The Los Angeles Rams ended the NFL season one game short of the Super Bowl, and naturally it had to be a disappointment to team owner Stan Kroenke. Then again, maybe it didn't make much of a difference to Kroenke, one of the world's 100 wealthiest individuals. Kroenke is owner of the Rams and its home, SoFi Stadium. Kroenke also owns the NBA Denver Nuggets. He owns the NHL Colorado Avalanche. He owns Major League Soccer's Colorado Rapids. He owns the National Lacrosse League's Colorado Mammoth. He owns the English Premier League's Arsenal FC. And he owns the Women's Super League's Arsenal WFC. Wow. I've got to assume he had a subscription to Sports Illustrated before they went belly up. And if he isn't locked up on an ESPN Plus app subscription, somebody at ESPN Marketing should be fired. Nobody owns more sports properties than this man, but that is just half of the Stan Kroenke story. Before we get around to the second half, let me just remind my faithful Gambling Mad viewers that Kroenke is married to Ann Walton, heir to the Walmart fortune. Kroenke met Ann on a ski trip to Aspen, Colorado. That checks out. I wouldn't think they would meet at a Jiffy Lube in Albany, New York. They have now been married 51 years. Now, it's one thing to marry into money, but it's a whole nother level when each party marries into money. I checked with AI on this. Money plus money equals more money. Kroenke's net worth is $21 billion. His wife's net worth is $9 billion. I checked with AI on this as well. 21 billion plus 9 billion equals fuck you money. Oh yeah. You know, everybody always talks about having FU money, where you can just walk into your boss's office and say, F you, I quit. Well, the Kroenkes have that, but they don't have any bosses. Boy, if they ever got divorced, the alimony payments to each other would be monstrous. All right, let's get to the second half of the Stan Kroenke Ain't Capitalism Grand Tale. To his credit, Kroenke is from the school of they're never making any more land, so I might as well grab as much of it as I can. He recently acquired nearly 1 million acres in New Mexico. Kroenke is now the largest private landowner in these United States. He owns more than 2.7 million acres. That's just over 4,200 square miles. I live in Los Angeles County, which has just under 4,100 square miles. LA County has nearly 10 million people living on those 4,100 square miles. Kroenke himself, for himself, has 4,200 square miles. Of course, if his wife is with him, that would make 2 people on the land. Plus, maybe they have a dog. So Stan Kroenke owns the world's most valuable sports empire, and he is America's largest private landowner. For the sake of it, let me just ask, how much is enough? Is it ever enough? How much is too much? Who cuts the grass when you have 2.7 million acres? I mean, we've been losing a lot of lawn services with all these ice raids. Anyway, between Stan's land and Ann's Walmarts, that couple pretty much has the U.S. covered. Let's take a look over at the big map. Let's take a look at the United States of Kroenke. First of all, he is from the state of Missouri. His hometown is Columbia, so he has some land there. He virtually owns all of Columbia. He also has a lot of land in several other western states, Montana, Wyoming, Nevada, and Texas. But of course, the crown jewel now, as he bought nearly 1 million acres over here in New Mexico. You see he is closing in on taking over the entire state of New Mexico. Also, he does have land, just a tiny piece of land, a cul-de-sac in Clearwater, Florida, for weekends when he wants to get away from the wife. Let's talk a moment about the wife. Anne has so many Walmarts across the United States. Each X here represents 100 Walmarts. This is 46 X's you see. That's 4,600 Walmarts she has control. So between Stan's 4,200 square miles of land and her 4,600 Walmarts, I gotta tell you, Stan and Ann, they're going to Sizzler every night. Let me just remind you, before we go any further, you may notice the Gulf of Trump down here. I want to pat ourselves on the back. We've had the Gulf of Trump down here since the president changed it from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. We predicted one day it would be the Gulf of Trump. Just a couple of weeks ago, he joked that he wanted to make it the Gulf of Trump. He wants to make it the Gulf of Trump. It's going to become the Gulf of Trump. A couple of quick notes before you would leave you. He also, Stan, has some land already in Canada, and I think he's going to buy a lot more land in Canada. It's bigger than the United States. He can write a blank check and buy all of Canada. And the final thing to note is that he has said that he will never, ever buy any land in Phoenix, Arizona. It's just too damn hot. Traffic and weather on the 5s all weekend. Back to the desk. We get a week off to prepare for the Super Bowl. I always suggest a Fritos and Fresca buffet for your Super Bowl Sunday party. And while many of us mourn the New England Patriots returning to the promised land, let me tell you how really bad this is. This is going to be the 60th Super Bowl. It's going to be the Patriots' 12th appearance. 12 times in 60 seasons. The Patriots get there every 5th year, 20% of the time. 12th time for the Patriots. Nobody else has more than 8. That would be the Broncos, 49ers, Steelers, and Cowboys. Oh, do you remember America's team? The Cowboys? Yeah, they haven't been to the Super Bowl in this century. It's now been 30 seasons since the Cowboys' last Super Bowl appearance. Since 1995, the Cowboys have no Super Bowls, and Jerry Jones has 2 facelifts. Here's another reference point for the Patriots' unfortunate sustained greatness. The Cardinals, Chargers, Jets, Saints, Titans, Browns, Jaguars, Lions, and Texans. That's more than 1/4 of all NFL teams. They have a combined 5 Super Bowl appearances. The Patriots have 12. Okay, we'll now move on before I throw up in my mouth. Time for this week's sports trivia question, which we'll answer later on the program. It is about the ocean. The deepest part of the ocean in the world is in the Mariana Trench. That's in the Western Pacific, which is, of course, our #1 rated ocean in the world. Okay, the question is, how deep does the ocean go in that spot? Pretty simple. How far is it? How deep does the ocean go at its deepest end, at its deepest point? Now, for those of you who question if this is really sports trivia, get out of my face. Triathlons. Sometimes they swim in the ocean. Sailing or yachting, like America's Cup, in the ocean. Surfing is an Olympic sport. You don't surf in a bathtub, you surf in the ocean. Deep sea fishing. The deep sea ain't no creek, it's the ocean. Okay, I could go on and on. In fact, I really could. We have no time constraints. We answer to nobody. We will give you the answer to this trivia question later on, just a few minutes away. No Googling. Here is our unlikely statistical improbability of the week to put you in the mood for baseball spring training just around the corner. Hall of Fame pitcher Warren Spahn won 363 games in his career. Somewhat incredibly, Spahn also had 363 hits in his career. You know, some of you youngins might not remember. There used to be no designated hitter, and so pitchers were part of the lineup every day. So, 363 wins and 363 hits? That seems unlikely, huh? People. We haven't even grazed the surface of unlikely yet. People. We haven't even reached the tip of the unlikely iceberg yet. Lean in and listen to this. I'm going to whisper it because I don't want too many people to find this out, though, to be honest with you, most of them wouldn't believe it. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. Warren Spahn had 363 wins. 356 of them for the Braves, 4 for the Mets, 3 for the Giants. He had 363 hits. 356 for the Braves, 4 for the Mets, and 3 for the Giants. There's crazy, and there is crazy. I mean, what are we talking about here? How can those numbers be identical? 363, we can understand that, wins and hits, but the exact same amount for 3 different teams on the nose. There is statistical improbability, and there is statistical improbability. Tell that to your friends at your next cocktail party if they still have cocktail parties.
Yum.
Okay, if I'm running a numbers game, it is against the law. If the state runs a numbers game and 45 of them have a lottery, it is not against the law. Okay, in my numbers game, the winners would get pretty good payouts. In the state's numbers game, the winners get screwed because of taxes, bureaucracy, hogwash, and bunk. Which brings us to the recent Powerball jackpot. $1.8 billion, the second largest prize in U.S. history. It went to one person. An Arkansas lottery player claimed the ticket, and he has chosen to keep, they have chosen to keep their identity a mystery. Okay, you have 2 choices now on the prize. You can take the winnings either with 30 graduated payments, like over 30 plus years. That'll total close to $1.8 billion, and then it'll actually be closer to $1 billion after taxes. Or you could take the winnings in one lump sum cash option right now. The Arkansas player chose the latter. As a lump sum, you do not get $1.8 billion. They give you $834 million. Right there, you lose more than half of it. Then after federal and state taxes, the final haul for the Arkansas winner will be about $490 million. Ouch. I mean, think about that. 1.8 billion becomes 490 million. That's a lot of, how shall we say, missing money. As many state lottery officials like to tell you, the money is taken out for state operators to use towards education, roads, health and human services, veterans programs, and economic development, or more simply put, for bullshit, and bullshit. Bottom line, folks, trust me, the lottery is a state-run grift. They make out like bandits. Okay, let's answer. our sports trivia question of the week. The deepest part of the ocean in the world is the Mariana Trench, which is in the Western Pacific, the #1 ranked ocean in the world. How deep does the ocean go in that spot? Asher, you with me? Do you have any idea? Would you have any guess, Asher?
45,000 feet.
45,000 feet. Okay, 1 mile is 5,200 and some feet. So I'm going to forget that you even said that, and we'll move on. If anyone out there said 6.825 miles, and frankly, I doubt anybody out there said that number, you would be correct. Deepest end of the ocean goes 6.825 miles. That's a long way. We have somebody on staff here who, future ex-staff for Asher, who guessed in feet. Under a mile. That's the quality of people we get in here. You know, it's not exactly Ivy Leaguers just treading a path into the studios. All right. By the way, I live 3 miles from the Pacific Ocean. And, you know, once you dip a toe in the Pacific, you never go back to the Atlantic. You know, even, you know, when I dip my toe in the Pacific, I actually still have my socks on. I don't even know how to swim. But, you know, even with my socks on, I can feel that the power and the majesty and the grandeur of the mighty Pacific Ocean. Just wanted to take a moment to send a quick message to the rest of the world. We are a joke. When I say we, I'm not talking about, you know, Belgium or Japan or Chile or the myriad other nations out there who haven't done anything that wrong lately. I'm speaking of you and me here in America. I just need to get on the record that there are many of us who understand that we have somewhat of a leadership void in the White House. Frankly, there appears to be nobody home. So I wanted to apologize to the people of Norway, our latest victims. I'll formulate apologies to the people of, you know, Canada and Mexico and Venezuela and Greenland and countless other peoples at a later date. Today, I just want to acknowledge that our dear leader, DJT, wrote a text to the Norwegian Prime Minister telling him that since Norway did not give him the Nobel Peace Prize, he no longer is all that interested in peace. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but that is pretty much the gist of it. Frankly, considering his line of reasoning, I don't know if DJT would have been the best person to select for the Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, since DJT is no longer as vested in peace, I assume he'll now make a belated run for the Nobel War Prize. Much more lucrative anyway. Everyone knows that there's more money in war than in peace. That's all. And again, my sincerest apologies to all of Norway. Let us update everybody on a story we told you about recently involving Noma, the Copenhagen, Denmark fine dining establishment, often considered the world's best restaurant. When you eat at Noma in Copenhagen, the fixed price tasting menu is about $700 per person. A little pricey, but it's a good feed, and they have, you know, the best busboys in the game. So Noma is coming to Los Angeles. They're going on the road. They're not closing the Denmark location, but they're going on the road, like a road theater troupe, and they're going to have a 16-week residency starting in March here in LA, priced at $1,500 per person. That does include silverware and, you know, cloth napkins. Reservations were made available online this week, and all seating for the 16 weeks sold out in 60 seconds. Even I was shocked, and as you might imagine, looking at me, I don't shock easily. I've lived in Los Angeles for half my life, and I know there's a lot of money. I know there's a lot of money in town. You know, when you walk into an Erewhon grocery store here, they'll charge you just to look at the produce. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that my fellow Angelinos are willing to pay $1,500 per person for a dinner in which the diner does not even choose the food and at a location that hasn't even been disclosed yet. But come on, you know, offering, it's 42 seats a night 4 nights a week for 16 weeks. How do you sell out every reservation in 60 seconds? They're not even going to have Fritos and Fresca. Anyway, Noma chef and founder Rene Redzepi felt badly for those would-be customers shut out, so he extended an olive branch of sorts. The day after Noma LA seats were gone, he did a pop-up at a bagel shop in town, Courage Bagels, where from 12 noon until 2 o'clock, he offered 250 special bagels at $25 a bagel. Hey, I love a good bagel. I will travel far and wide to get good bagels, but I draw the line at, $19.99 a pop. I know you're wondering if there was sea salt and pumpkin katsubushi involved with these bagels. Of course there was. Imagine how much they could charge if they filled the hole in the bagel with chocolate fudge and put 2 strips of crispy bacon on top. Now we're talking. See you at Noma, LA, if I happen to get the job, as a parking valet. McDonald's has more than 27,000 drive-thrus globally, and it has exactly 1 ski-through. A drive-through, as we all know, has a service lane for cars. A ski-through is essentially a walk-through lane for skiers. It's called, of course, McSki. The McSki is in western Sweden on the Lindvallen slope. So now, you can still eat inside that McDonald's at the ski resort, but you'd have to unclip your skis and stomp around the dining, area in a lot of gear. Or you can just glide on up to the ordering window in full gear and slide away with a Big Mac on skis. Now, I am not a skier, and I'm certainly not a McDonald's devotee, but I would fly to Stockholm, then take the train 200 miles into the Salem Mountains just for the opportunity to latch on some skis and slide up to the McSki window and order some McNuggets and a McFlurry from the McCafe and then McSki away. From a fast food standpoint, this is pretty much the equivalent of seeing the pyramids and the Great Wall of China on the same day. Before we wrap up, I'm going to say this one time and one time only. Michelle Tafoya, who are you kidding? Some of you might recall Michelle Tafoya as the longtime sideline reporter on NBC's Sunday Night Football. She quit that position 4 years ago and pivoted to hosting a largely political podcast. And now she has decided to run for a U.S. Senate seat in Minnesota, all of which is fine, until you take a look at her video announcing her candidacy. Standing on a football field, Tafoya says, "For years I walked the sidelines when the stakes were highest." When the stakes were highest? You mean to decide the last wild card playoff spot? She then says, "That job taught me how leadership really works." Asking Andy Reid about second half adjustments taught you how leadership really works? Who are you kidding, Coach Tafoya? If you want to trade on your sports celebrity to run for office, no problem. But you want Minnesota voters to believe that reporting on hamstring injuries is the experience that will make you a great legislator? How stupid do I look? Don't answer. That will do it for another edition of Gambling Mad with Norm and Chad. Hope to see you again next time. And remember, if you're gonna roll the dice, make sure they're loaded.
Today's presenting sponsor of Gambling Mad with Norm and Chad is brought to you by 24K Wellness. Not all nutritional supplements are the same. 24K Wellness makes it their mission to help you feel, perform, and live at your best naturally and sustainably. 24K Wellness delivers nutritional supplements based on more than 5 decades of experience. Premium gold standard natural ingredients with advanced formulations and rigorous quality assurance testing to create products that support energy, recovery, vitality, long-term health and cognition for focus through stress, late nights, and questionable decisions. No promises on your picks. And right now, special for Gambling Mad listeners only, go to 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K for the absolute lowest prices anywhere. Once again, that's 24kwellness.com and use the code MAD24K. 24K Wellness Fuel better, live better. Tell them Norm sent you.
Dogs bark, cats meow, cows moo, but crows crow. How's that? Dogs bark, cows moo, crows crow? That's a little bit lazy with the language. When Merriam-Webster invented English, I assume they sat there with a legal pad going through every single action in life, plus taking the time to create entire definitions so they could market their Merriam-Webster book as an expensive dictionary. This process must have taken at least a month, and they were so thorough that somehow when they got to animals, they figured out that dogs bark and cows moo, but then they just mailed it in and decided that crows will crow. What were Merriam and Webster smoking? Was there a word then for weed? How do you say crows crow and keep going? That is professional malfeasance. And because we were all lemmings on a headlong rush to destruction, hey, do lemmings lemming? We just accepted this nonsense. Well, I'm drawing the line today because I don't say elephant's elephant and I don't say horse is horse. So I damn well am not going to keep saying that crows crow. So going forward, ducks quack, pigs oink, bees buzz, snakes hiss, and crows grok. Yes, grok and grok and grok. Spell it any way you want, you hockadoodles. Crows grok. Plus, I'm taking my Merriam-Webster dictionary and sticking it where the sun don't shine, but maybe the sun don't shine, the sun just suns, because these linguistic lexicographers screw up this crow business so much it's driving me gambling mad.
Gambling Mad with Norman Chad is written by Norman Chad and ghost-written by Norman Chad. Executive producers are John Scheinberg and Rick Barrio-Dill. Produced by Norman Chad and Rick Barrio-Dill. Our associate producers are Bree Khoury and Asher Friedberg, and edited by Asher Friedberg with studio facilities at 360 Pod Studios, Beverly Hills.